What if I told you that the thing you are obsessing about right now in your home studio is the exact thing that's keeping you from getting paid? In this conversation, I break down the gear trap that cost me years of frustration and what actually matters when you're creating music for brands that pay big money. And if you want the complete roadmap, the exact scripts, outreach messages, this step by step playbook that got our musicians their first $10,000, $15,000, $18,000 campaigns for big brands. You can grab it below for less than the price of a burrito. Consider it lunch with Uncle Z, minus the fancy sushi bill that I had to pay back in the day. Let us dive right in.
What is something that you chased early in your music career that turned out not to matter at all?
Mm, Let me think about this a little bit. I think the number one thing is, and it's kind of funny because it happened later in my music career. Like the first starts of my music career before I even started doing this, creating music for brands, was literally trying to get record deals, was literally like sending demos to radio stations and having airplay and being charted even in Poland, of all places, as a rapper, of all things. And so the interesting thing about that is when I was doing that, I was actually relying on a producer. I had a guy from high school who had a studio and he was actually getting his songs placed and on compilations, and he had all these hits, like dance hits in Canada. And so he knew how to work his way around the gear. And I was still in the phase of like, I need to hire a studio. I need someone who knows how to work the tools to help me create the demo. So the funny thing about that is I never overthought studio gear or plugins or anything like that. I just focused on like, what is my hook going to be? What is the song going to be about? What am I actually trying to do? And I had someone else doing the thing. So it was actually quite effective in the sense that I only worried about the things that are important. What is the song going to be about? What's the hook? What's the whole idea for this project? Like, what am I trying to do? And the ingredients were the most important thing for me. And what was the ingredient? The ingredient was that I'm going to rap in Polish English. I'm going to be the guy who's from the West. I'm going to have a girl on the chorus singing the hooks, just like in 90s R&B and hip hop when they started meeting, right? And I'm going to send it back to Poland and it's going to be a huge hit, right? So
Yeah.
that's the most important thing. Like, what's your recipe, right? I'm talking to those who are trying to be artists. Now, later on, when I started putting production into my own hands and the laptop came and Reason came and Ableton came, plugins came, it's just like with any screen in our life, we got fascinated by it. The early iPhones allowed us to do so much. So we almost had a natural excuse to like, oh, let me figure out this thing, right? Because it's so important. It's like changing the game. But I think now we're at the point where like the technology is running us and we're not running it. And that is probably the most unimportant thing that seems important that gets in the way of us shipping something.
Mm.
The tools are endless, the possibilities are endless. You open your DAW and if you don't have a concept, if you don't have a formula, you're lost. I can tell you that right now. You don't even know which plugin to start with. Arturia, Omnisphere, one of the 1,000 native instrument libraries. And already there is energy being drained from you because you have to decide. But that's not the important shit. The important shit is like, why did you open the DAW in your first place? What did you hope to express today through this creative session? So I'm sure you will identify with this. In advertising, we don't have this problem. You know damn well what you're opening the DAW for. And you got like one day to deliver the thing you've opened the door for. So that I find is the refreshing and kind of like the liberating thing in our business. Is like I'm getting paid to do something very specific, so like there's no problem. But I think for a lot of musicians who also want to develop themselves as an artist, as a composer, who's not necessarily being paid to run around on someone's brief, is exactly this. It's like you're allowing the tools to convince you that they are important, when in fact, they're not really. Not at all, I would say, even. Because if you rely on the tool too much, you're basically putting yourself in a rat race with everyone else who probably has that tool. So just because that tool can make this sound, it doesn't even matter in the end. I think what matters ultimately the most is your recipe. What are you trying to say? What is the unique way in which you will say it? And paradoxically, today that might mean less tools if you want to actually sound different. And and just to focus on that and not get lost in all your options.
Yeah.
I just realized you had a very simple question and I took 10 minutes writing essay.
No, it's important. It's no, even with advertising, I still struggle with it. Not on like coming up with the idea side, but like I can get obsessive over like how am I gonna mix this kind of
Yeah.
thing after the idea is laid out, and yeah, can you're chasing your own tail sometimes. Just like I need a different EQ. Like every EQ does the same thing. Like your stock EQ, that's all you need.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you find when you start like worrying about EQ and mixing, do you think that that is a product of you not being totally confident in what you've just done?
That's that's probably fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, man. Like when I notice myself like slapping this EQ, this high-end shimmer, this, that, it's almost like I'm basically trying to procrastinate on the inevitable, which is that I will at some point very, very soon have to turn this into a rendered file, which will be uploaded to a link, which will be placed in an email and sent to the person that will pay me for this thing. And I'm terrified that when they press play, they will go, "What the hell is this?" And that this high shimmer IQ will prevent that from happening, which it won't. That's yeah, that's the number one news. The second news is like how many times have you worked on a piece and that running around after plugins started, but in the end, the piece was actually good, so the fear was irrational in some way.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll spend an hour, 2 hours throwing a bunch of plugins on something and not being satisfied with it, and then coming back to it later and turning all the plugins off and being like, "Actually, this was way better before I did anything."
Yeah. Yeah, so it's almost like, I think someone who's on their way to being like a seasoned craftsperson will have to recognize that pattern. And that pattern happens somewhere around the end where you resist rendering. Like it's almost like you know deep down that everything you're gonna do from now on is diminishing returns.
Yeah.
It's there. But like some part of you, I think the maybe it's the ego, maybe it's the irrational, fearful part is like, but it can't possibly be there. Like it just wants to convince you that it's not good enough or something. And I think that's bullshit.
Yeah.
And something to be said is like we talked about this before. Your client will decide if it's there or not. So like the sooner you ship something that actually you believe answers the problem reasonably well, I think the better, because that extra hour spent wondering is probably not as valuable as the first 15 seconds that the client will spend listening, as far as like
Mm.
getting to a resolution, whether they love it or hate it.
Mm.
Just imagine if you spend another 2 hours polishing with your best EQ. And I love it, by the way. Like, I always love applying. I use what is it called? The P27 or the E27? It's a um PSP replica of some legendary EQ, and they have this preset called high-end shimmer. And I'm a
Mhm.
sucker for high-end shimmer, by the way, especially in like orchestral stuff. And it really does make things sound beautiful. Um but just imagine if you spend like 3 hours like doing all that stuff, and then you send it to the client, they're like, "I hate it." Like, I don't it's like at a basic level, like, I think the emotion is wrong, and you're like, "So I just spent 3 hours seasoning something, and I find out they're allergic to steak."
Yeah.
So, like, send the steak, you know? See if they can bite into it, and if they can, then just imagine how fun and relaxed and joyful it will be to season that steak, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to really be confident in your initial idea. I think there are 2 ways you might procrastinate with mixing or adding effects. Either you're scared to export just because of the external feedback you're gonna get, or you don't wanna go back to the drawing board about what you've written, and you're trying to season a rotten piece of meat when really you
Yeah,
gotta start
yeah,
back
yeah.
at the foundation.
Well, in that case, I would say I'm a big fan of working fast. And so what it means for me is like broad strokes. It's like I open a new session, I bring the picture in, I start jamming. If I don't feel good in the first 30 minutes about where this is going, I literally will close it down and start a new one. So if I have 90 minutes to compose a demo, I will literally just wait for that moment when I feel things are actually shaping up to be an answer, and only then do I proceed. If I don't feel that way in the first half an hour, I will literally start new sessions until I do feel that way. Um, so, but the thing that we teach, right, in the academy, which is like the whole chalk, watercolors, oil method, I think that's what saves you from endless noodling, because literally in the first minute, your track will be finished. And
Yeah.
what do I mean by that? I mean that you will see it visually as a finished piece, and all you will have to do is just go in and tinker with each section until you think it like achieves what it's supposed to achieve. So I really, really like that method. Even though like the chalk, the structure never works out precisely in the end, the way you've laid it out. But that's life, right? Like, plans rarely ever work out, but you're not gonna like start your day without a plan, are you? Right?
Yeah.
So your life, your quarter, your month, like our plans rarely ever work out, the things that we plan in our academy. But we have some kind of a notion of what the hell we're doing and why we're doing it. So that prevents you from like being totally lost in life and in your session. Have a rough sketch literally laid out and just try to fill it in. And then later on, you'll just adjust it, right?